Welcome back to rSteven. I'm your host, Steven. Thank you for listening with us today. Emergency exits are typically located at either the top right or bottom left of the screen, and today, bosses getting fired, childhood memories ruined, and even a man's junk come in the crosshairs of some crazy revenge stories, all starting with a post titled, "Can't park in front of your own house? Whoops, no more secondary income." I live in a small neighborhood with maybe 20 total homes. Each home has about 50 plus feet of road frontage, 3 plus car garages, and large driveways. And parking is permitted on both sides of the street. As such, there's never a reason to park in front of a home that isn't yours or that you're not visiting unless there's some sort of event. Most of the neighbors are friendly and know each other, so in the time I've lived here, parking has never been an issue. Until last month. Last month, a neighbor from the far other end of the development started parking daily and overnight in the smack dab middle of our property's road frontage. Odd, but maybe she's having work done in her driveway and wants to park away from the fumes? I don't know, things happen, not a big deal, but after 5 nights of this, I'm getting a little fed up. The yard guys can't cut the grass where her car is located. Deliveries of large items are postponed because they can't get up our driveway without the extra turning radius. So I leave a note. I know, on her windshield. It's a quick note explaining that it would formally be a non-issue, but we have some deliveries coming and it would help if she could move her car back to her home this week. Edit for clarity, the note did not ask her to move permanently, but asked if she could move temporarily for 3 days, I think we asked, so we could mow without getting grass on her car and so that the delivery drivers could get in the driveway. We had a few large deliveries that required big trucks with large turn radiuses. No response, but the note is gone the next morning. The car is still there, and our other neighbor texts us, "Hey OP, you may want to watch out for mean neighbor. She started cussing me out for the note left on her windshield and said it was public property so she could park there as much as she wants." Not cool, but since I don't want to pick a fight, what is there to be done? The next time she moves her car, I pull my own in front of my house. This does not make her happy, and she spends the next few days flipping off my Ring doorbell from the street and leaving notes on my car that are never threatening but never kind, like "freak you" and "lib T word." Game on. Edit, I didn't get revenge for her parking in an obviously public place, as explained, but for her flipping me off, cursing me out, and leaving cruel notes on our car when we parked in front of our own home. It didn't take much digging to realize there were regularly unusual out-of-state cars parked at her actual home, and even less digging to find her home listed on Airbnb for way more per night than her entire mortgage. A few quick calls to the county, and wouldn't you know it, Airbnb and short-term rentals are completely forbidden, no exceptions, in our neighborhood. On top of that, the county zoning commissioner finds out that she's been renting out her home for almost half a decade, and each rental violation equates to a $250 fine. You can do the math. I'm not sure what happened after, but we do know she received a court order of some sort, and, more importantly, that she stopped parking in front of our house. Guess she had to find a job that didn't include flipping people off all day. So, jumping in here to say, I have to admit I'm pretty surprised that there's actually a place that actually withholds the whole no Airbnbs, no even renting in that neighborhood. I would have thought it was like an HOA thing, but OP said it was the county zoning commission. So that means wherever OP is, their county as a whole says, no, we're not doing Airbnbs. I'm assuming they still have renting, it's just like you can't do an Airbnb type thing. Which I just have to say, I think is a good thing probably for a lot of places, because I've heard there's a serious problem in a lot of places where entire neighborhoods are bought up and swept up and are just flipped as Airbnbs. All of a sudden you're looking for a place to rent in an area and you can't because they're all just Airbnb homes. An anonymous user left a comment on the post saying, "I hate Airbnb in neighborhoods. You're doing a great service." The OP responded to that comment saying, "Thank you. It gets even better, as it turns out she was renting from the people across the street from us when her Airbnb was rented. Double whammy." A user named Sense2 left a comment saying, but why does she have to park in front of your house when Airbnb-ing? The OP responded, she was renting short-term from the people across the street from us whenever she Airbnb'd her house. No idea why she couldn't just park on that side of the street. And speaking of doing a great service, if you enjoy these revenge stories and you want to help out, it would be a great service if you could hit those like or subscribe buttons down below, or leave a review if you're listening to my podcast. Our next story is, I made a dude get his nuts waxed on the first date after he lied to me. When I was in my early 20s and online dating was just starting, I made a profile and said I was just not going to be into two things: smokers and people with kids. Just that. You could be anything else, and if the chemistry is there, we are all good. I meet this guy early in the morning for a breakfast date, and we're hitting it off averagely. No sparks, but no red flags. The date goes for 2.5 hours. Breakfast taking forever until we're splitting the bill and he tells me that he has a kid. I ask him if he read my profile to know that I was not interested in that, and he says, yes, I read that, but knew that if you just spent some time with me, you would see how great I am and how you would be willing to see past that. I was floored, as now he wasted 3 hours of my life and was okay with being a liar. That was unacceptable to me. I said, well, I don't want this date to end, but I have to go across town to get my Brazilian, where they take all the hair off, including the bum hole, done in an hour. Wanna come with me and get one too? It's not painful. A total lie. And I think it's attractive on men to be clean there. No pressure, but I'm pretty busy the rest of the week, and this is my only free day. He was all about following me anywhere. I told the ladies that this was his first time and that they should take everything, including the butt. He held my hand between a curtain and we both got them done at the same time. He screamed a lot, but was a champ and went through with it. I made him pay for his own and never called him again. If you're out there, Chris, please don't lie to women on the first date. It's a really bad way to start a relationship. Edit. Wow. Well, it seems like most people have had 3 general reactions. 1. Clapping. This is delightful. 2. You're a horrible person plus other expletives. And 3. This is fake. 1. Thank you for all the validation that online dating sucks for all genders and you shouldn't go into it with a lie. 2. Yeah, I'm a horrible person. And 3. It's not fake, but you can think so if you want. When I was in my early 20s, I did a lot of things I would maybe still do now, and some I wouldn't. And to all of those sending me messages calling me nasty things behind your keyboards, this is a revenge subreddit. So you came here for this crap. So obviously OP's getting a lot of flack here, and I wonder if it's really because they think it's fake or they really think OP is a jerk or something, or if it's because of those people's personal issues. You know, just kind of the way they see people and the way they see the world. Because I'm gonna be honest, I thought OP's revenge was great. Nobody wants to go on a dating app, clearly state what you're all about, and then when you show up, find out you essentially got catfished. If the worst thing that ever happens to a person like that is they end up getting their franken beans waxed, they should be more than happy. Shoot, they have a conversation topic for the next person they want to lie to. A user named Big Nossi left a comment saying, definitely petty, but he consented to it. I would have just ended the night there like a mature adult. Imagine the genders were switched. I saw a comment thread on this very post where women were defending women pulling the same crap. Nobody there advocating that they put the mom through pain for lying. Dude's an idiot for thinking he'd get a second date. Sure. Don't put your kids in your profile to protect them, but skip the girls who have a hard line against being a stepmom. I'll never advocate hurting someone for your enjoyment. I'm glad I have a girlfriend because the mind games and modern dating are too much for me. Y'all were both sneaky liars. Y'all both did good not seeing each other again. Maybe have some compassion for single fathers because people don't seem to struggle sympathizing with a mother in a similar scenario. The OP responded to all of that, saying he wasn't a single father. He told me he still was technically married to his wife, but they were separated and sharing the child. I do agree with you that parents often protect their kids from the internet by not putting them in their profile photos, but if you stated explicitly in your profile that you were not interested in being a stepmom, then showing up to a date is also consenting to what the other person has stated as their minimum guidelines for who they want to be with. A different user named Franzette left a comment saying, "The amount of times a smoker would hit on me online despite having a big no smokers in my profile. Once you learn they smoke, they'll hit you with the, 'But I won't smoke when I'm with you.' That's not the point." The OP responded to that saying, "Yes, exactly. I don't want to smell like secondhand smoke. I get nauseated. I don't want to be with someone who doesn't value their health in that way. I also can have a preference on not wanting to raise or be involved with other people's children in my early 20s. It's not hard to respect people's explicit preferences. If someone said, 'I only date 7-foot-tall Amazonian women,' I wouldn't try to go on a date with them knowing that they would figure out I wasn't what they were interested in pretty quickly. It's like consent. When your date shows up and is 20 years older than their profile photos or exhibits some other quality you stated that was not part of the things you would consent to, they're assaulting your time." Our next story is, "Trash my property, I'll trash your memories." I had been renting a home to a family for about 8 years. I rented through an agency, so I tried to be as hands-off as possible, but I still helped out when I could. Any major appliance breakdowns or issues were addressed as quickly as I could. I like to believe that what goes around comes around, good and bad alike. They had some interesting problems though. At one point, the stove broke and would only go on high. Not a big deal to fix, maybe $80 in parts, but they didn't tell me about it. Instead, they decided to leave oil in a pan and walked away to fold laundry. The grease caught fire and destroyed the microwave and left smoke damage. I was ticked, but crap happens, so I let it slide. About 13 months ago, they sent me a text saying, "There was a fire, it's bad." The garage was totally destroyed. The fire investigator said a cigarette likely started the blaze since it was tossed into a pile of trash. Tenants didn't even know the house was on fire because they removed the batteries from all the smoke detectors because they wouldn't stop beeping. Obviously, they had to leave since the house was uninhabitable. We didn't straight up evict them, they did it to themselves. My rental agency never did a final walkthrough and never collected their keys. The house has been under restoration ever since. It's been about $90,000 in insurance claims and my premium has quadrupled. Now, in an effort to make it presentable again, my family and I have been painting and replacing the needed items. Turns out, their teenage son let himself into the house at some point and kicked in some walls and carved his name into about 20 places in the house. There were many other things, but I'm trying to keep this brief. As for revenge, this weekend I was in the attic replacing bathroom vents. When I went into the attic, I found 3 boxes stored away. One of them had an NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, with a dozen games or so. The others were labeled Son's Name Memories. They contained baby blankets, stuffed animals, and other trinkets. I took special joy in placing the boxes out for bulk trash to pick up, and smiled as I watched them get crushed by the trash truck. If you don't care about other people's stuff, you can't expect them to care about yours. Notes, I'm working my way out of the rental game. Not worth the effort. I found about $7,000 in damages that I won't recover without going to small claims court, but they were behind on nearly every bill, so it would be like getting blood from a stone. And if you're wondering why I didn't evict them sooner, it's because my rental agency insisted they were as good as I could expect. You know, when you're essentially 6 figures in the hole, I don't really blame OP for being vindictive here, but at that point, does OP not have any satisfaction out of the idea of not just like trying to squeeze the blood from the stone, but also the fact that they would probably be held like criminally liable if they don't like pay some of that? I mean, even if OP gets like a trickle over the next few decades, at least they'd be getting something from them, right? I guess realistically the problem is OP's already in the hole over $90,000. The court fees and the lawyer fees to get that blood from the stone trickling just adds to the total. A user named Newsy left a comment saying, "Wasn't a requirement for them to have renter's insurance? If not, your agency is negligent at least and liable at worst." The OP responded, their renter's insurance covered the cost of their damaged items and got them a hotel for a short time while they found a new place. The house damage was my responsibility. Ironically, their car got roasted in the garage, but their car insurance canceled them because of DUIs or something, and the renter's insurance wouldn't cover it. A user named CatlessBoyMom replied, if that's as good as you could get, you need a new agency. They're running the place like slumlords. Also, if they failed to do the walkthrough and get the keys, they might be responsible for the damages caused by the sun after the move out. Check with a lawyer. The OP responded, I did, no dice. Lessons were learned, people suck. Our next story is, I got both my bosses fired because they were thieves. This isn't quite revenge, more like justice. Also, sorry for the wall of text, but it's a good read. I was a manager at a small chain grocer several years ago. It was a crappy job in the bad part of town, and I was working 50+ hours a week on salary. So no overtime, and I was attending college. I was tired as freak. Our store had 3 managers, store manager Dylan, assistant store manager Jim, and third level manager me. Dylan was an okay guy, sometimes a jerk, but usually easy to get along with, and a thief. Could not prove it. He also scheduled me to work nights like 6 days a week, and he wouldn't budge on that. So I had to deal with the crappy lunatic customers that only come out at night all the time. It was extremely frustrating, and it wore down greatly on my sanity. Jim was a complete moron with a room temperature IQ, did half-hearted work, thought he was hot crap because he drove a motorcycle sometimes, and was a thief. Could not prove it. When I would come into work in the evening after class, employees would always vent to me about how Jim was bossing them around while he sat on his fat butt all day. There was not a lot I could do except offer a listening ear and laugh and cut up with them while we finished our shifts. I was usually the only manager working in the evenings, but Jim and I had scheduled one night to work together on a project that needed both of us to be there. Probably rearranging shelves or new product placement or something. We were getting ready to leave, and I was going to take my cash drawer to the back to count it. Jim asked me to wait a minute because he needed to buy some packaged or butchered meat for dinner. No problem. He came back with a 5-pound package of beef with a ridiculously low price, like $3 or something, and it had a sticker with a correct but different item description we didn't use. I ran the cash registers a lot and was very familiar with our products. I didn't say a word and rang him up. When he walked away, I reprinted a copy of his receipt and stuck it in my pocket, and we closed up for the night. I was scheduled to open the store the next day on Saturday morning, so when I arrived, I walked to the butcher room to investigate. I found the plastic wrapper from that package of beef with the original price tag in the trash can. So I grabbed it. I also found out that the pricing scale that prints the price stickers had that wrong label still selected, and he had manually keyed in a dramatically lower price per pound. I grabbed one of those stickers too. Then I walked to the DVR in the manager's office and wrote down the timestamps of the footage where Jim took the meat off the shelf into the butcher room and walked out to my register where he bought it. I stashed the evidence in my locker until Dylan came in around noon. I showed the evidence to him. He got in touch with our district manager, Rocky. Rocky called Jim the next day and asked him to come to the store, and after a short behind-closed-doors meeting, Jim was fired with cause. So no unemployment benefits. Shortly after, I was promoted to assistant store manager. Justice was served, and nobody missed that loser. A few months later, we got a piece of mail from St. Jude's Children's Hospital. It was a fundraiser package to collect quarters for leukemia research. I thought it was a great idea, so I had the cashiers ask for 25-cent donations to put in the little cardboard stands they sent us. After the program ended, we had collected about $250 in donations. I kept the donations in the safe. The instructions in the fundraiser said Western Union was one way to send the donation in. That was down the road from us, so it was easiest. Dylan took the money to Western Union, and when he returned, I asked him for a receipt. He said he didn't get one. I was suspicious. A few weeks later, we got a letter in the mail from St. Jude. It was a thank you letter for our generous donation of $50. That freaking idiot stole money that could have saved a child's life. I was raging inside. Roughly a year later, Dylan and I were working on another project at night. I had finished cleaning the floors and noticed that I'd not seen him for a while. I was looking for him to ask if he was ready to leave, and I heard the door to the dairy cooler open. It has loud refrigeration fans inside, so I figured he's stocking the milk or something. The door was only slightly open, so when I opened the door and walked in to talk to him, I saw him hovering over a shopping cart filled with groceries that he was putting into shopping bags. He was startled and started talking to me about some random thing, like how nervous or guilty people do, as he hurried out of the cooler. I acted like nothing happened, and we closed up the store and went home. Dylan was scheduled to open the store the next day. When I arrived around noon, he went home shortly after. I went to the dairy cooler, and the shopping cart is gone. I pulled the DVR footage and saw him arrive at work about an hour early and park his truck at the front door. Unusual. Then he rolled his shopping cart out of the cooler and to his truck, where he loaded all the groceries. He then locked the doors, drove off, and came back when he normally would to open the store. Since all the items were in bags, you couldn't see them, so technically I couldn't prove he didn't buy them, unless I watched a crap ton of footage and followed him around the store on the DVR. Hours of work. There was a glimmer of hope though. One thing he stole was a jumbo pack of paper towels, so it wouldn't fit in a bag. This particular brand of paper towel was also overpriced, so customers had not bought a single one, and there was only one pack missing from the display. I needed a little more evidence though. I got the barcode number from those paper towels and ran a report on the computer for any transactions the entire week that contained that number. It showed no results found. Perfect. I printed that and wrote down the DVR timestamps. By coincidence, our area manager, Rod, he worked under Rocky, happened to show up that same day. I showed Rod the evidence, and you can guess what happened after that. Dylan didn't get his unemployment benefits either. Rocky hired someone to replace Dylan instead of promoting me, but shortly before then, I had finished my degree, so I started a real career a few months later and got out of that crap hole. You know, this story almost kind of makes me wonder where Dylan was in his own life. Was it like a thing where they're struggling personally, or was it a situation you think where they just got too comfortable and let their true nature come out and stole stuff, thinking, oh, I'm gonna get away with this. I mean, hey, they didn't catch me, Dylan, when I stole $200 from St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And to be fair, now that I say that out loud, I think I kind of know my answer. They stole $200 from a charity that's trying to support children who have leukemia. That guy was born to be an absolute degenerate. A user by the name of Dr. Laserbrain left a comment saying, I knew a guy in high school who worked in a supermarket butcher. Everyone was stealing by mislabeling meat. He was shown how to do it by another employee, and he saw many others doing it too. He started doing it as well. No problem, right? A new employee started, and he showed her how to do it like everyone else was. Turns out she was an undercover cop that was recording him. He was on the hook for all the meat that was stolen. Our next story is Most Satisfying Revenge Moment of My Life. Summer 1985 or 1986, I dragged myself into my horrific job as an assistant manager at Jack in the Box for yet another 12-hour day. I've recently learned that the two other assistant managers, who are bonking each other, and that's a visual that still makes me cringe, have decided that they are going to go up to Tahoe Saturday and Sunday night for a little vacation. Well, good for them, but Saturday night is the AC/DC concert at the Cow Palace, which all of my friends and I have been looking forward to for months. These two jerks got the manager to give them the time off and forced me to have to work their shifts, without even talking to me about it, and of course, no concert for me. I was ticked. Enough is enough after months of this crap going on. I hate the dang job anyway, and after 2 years of it, I'm done. I'm 23 years old with a crew of 17 to 19-year-olds, all of who are very cool kids, and they can't stand Smelly Sue and Craphead Mike either. They're both narcissistic idiots. I decided that actually, no. I am not going to miss my AC/DC concert with my best friends. I'm going to make Friday night my last night, and I'm going out in legendary fashion. The scene, it's Friday night, 8 p.m. Sue and Mike have been going on all day about what a great time they're going to have in Tahoe for the weekend. Little cabin on the lake, some expensive wines they've purchased. She-beast, Sue, is slyly hinting of lingerie perhaps, which immediately sets off the gag reflex of anyone within earshot. You get the picture. They both end their shift at 9 p.m., leaving me with a packed restaurant and many hours left to go. Finally, I close the store at midnight. I'm hazy on what the hours were, but it's at the end of the night, and after a few hours of cleaning, I get the crew out and I'm finally alone. Now, the way the menu in computers work at that time is that you have a cash register that is pre-programmed with menu keys for each time of the day. Breakfast menu, lunch menu, dinner menu. For instance, during breakfast time, the registers will show breakfast jack or hash browns or scrambled eggs, and you use those for the breakfast menu. At lunch, the keys for fries, onion rings, super tacos, etc. Dinner had specific keys for dinner items. So the customer says, I want a jumbo jack and fries. The cashier presses the specific keys, this is important, for jumbo jack and for fries. Then, on the video screens above the fryer station and the griddle station show 1 jumbo jack and 1 fries. Also, again important, is its store policy that all receipts must be printed and given to the customer. If you forget, the customer can get $5 or something like that. So what I did was, well, I reprogrammed the menu keys. So now when you press fries on your register, it doesn't say fries on the workstation video screens. It says whatever I programmed it to say. Same with the receipts. You're pressing fries, but the receipt shows whatever I've programmed it to say. The stage is set. Saturday morning, 6 a.m., the jerk managers arrive for the breakfast shift. Now this is the critical part. They are working all day until 5 p.m. when the dinner shift starts, when I'm supposed to be taking over. I reprogrammed the dinner keys, not breakfast or lunch, because those keys shouldn't be used until at least 6 p.m. The real danger here was that someone would accidentally hit one of the dinner keys during the day, which would have wrecked my plan. Thankfully, that did not happen. It's a regular Saturday, busy. Sue and Mike are still going on about how much they can't wait to leave for their trip, and nobody touched a dinner key all day. 6 p.m. arrives. I do not. Before they have a chance to complain about me being late, the first dinner pricing key is hit. Hi, may I have your order? I'll have 2 jumbo jack combos with large fries and a Coke. The cashier rings it up, hands the customer the receipt, and laughter starts breaking out among the fryer crew. Because it no longer said fries on their station, it said 1 order of Sue's butt smells. The grill crew was next. They got 2 orders of Mike Mount's barnyard animals. But wait, there were several more dinner items. Sue has butt breath, Mike has tiny balls. It was quickly becoming pandemonium in the kitchen with bouts of laughter beginning to start. This is in the middle of the dinner rush hour. The store is packed with customers. Because the keys have my new glossary of insults for Sue and Mike, the crew had to figure out which insult meant what so they could still fill the orders. So what you're hearing in the kitchen is, I need 2 more Sue's butt. I need another order of Mike's tiny balls. The teenage crew was really getting into it. Meanwhile, up front of the registers, Sue and Mike are still trying to figure out what's going on, and they're having to hand receipts to the customers with exactly what the kitchen crews were seeing on their monitors. Everything was working perfectly to this point. And it's also the precise moment where I, already on my way to the city with my friends, pull off to a payphone in Mountain View and call the restaurant. Hey Sue, you know what? I don't think I get cut off. What the freak did you do? I resume. I don't really feel like coming in tonight. I'm not missing the AC/DC concert. So I quit. I heard some muffled gasps of an attempt to say something, and I hung up. What happened next? The two nitwits couldn't figure out how to fix the computers, which really wasn't that difficult. So they spent the entire evening with the situation unfolding. The crew of employees were in absolute hysterics. They later said it was the funniest work shift of their entire lives. Mike and Sue had to endure listening to shouts of 2 orders of Mike and goats and the like for hours. And adding to the misery, they had to give the customers the paper receipts that had the same on them. At one point, they finally called in the California regional manager for the Jack in the Box Corporation, Foodmaker Corp, to come in and fix the computer keys, but he didn't get there until like midnight. The actual manager was out of town as well. Aftermath, Sue and Mike had to pick up my shifts, which basically amounted to 7 straight days of opening and closing. No, they did not get their joyful little Tahoe vacation. No, they did not get to enjoy their expensive Napa wine. No lingerie for you. Mike was fired a week later. Sue hung around for around 3 more months after, and I have no idea where she went after that. The store manager, who I talked to years later, said it was indeed very, very funny. Having found my calling, I became a software engineer and am to this day. It was a great AC/DC concert. Stay frosty, my friends, and don't forget, don't get mad, get even. 2 things. I don't want to doubt OP, and granted, I wasn't around in 1985 or 1986, but did they have overhead monitor screens at stations in Jack in the Box in 85 or 86? Maybe I'm out of pocket for assuming they didn't have it by that point, but I feel like by the mid-80s, video board screens on actual cooking stations in a fast food place just doesn't sound accurate. The second is, though, I love the idea that they had to hand somebody the receipt that said they got an order of Mike's Tiny Balls. How do you explain that away to the customer? It's a seasonal item. It's just a regional renaming. Enjoy your food, please come back. A user named Cybernet Christmas Guy left a comment saying, "This is funny, but did you try to schedule it off at all prior? Or they just told you about their plans and you got mad because they asked first? Can't be mad if you wait till the last minute and you had a shift." The OP responded, "I had let everyone know I was going months in advance, at least 3 months before. I'm not a jerk. It wasn't poor me, it was F you. I'd already notified my manager, etc. Somehow they came up with some whiny story to get our manager to say, okay, he can just deal with it. I dealt with it, alright. And speaking of Mike's Tiny Balls, usually I have a smooth segue to the outro here, but I don't know how I can branch off of that one. Just like Mike's Tiny Balls, my time is short, and that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy revenge story, why not check out that video on the left of the screen? Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.